Hello again, you're watching In Focus. Tembekile Mkhototo in for Thabo Mdluli tonight. And South Africans are increasingly becoming concerned about kidnappings, especially those of children, from the Moti brothers who were snatched while on their way to school in Polokwane last month, to that grade 5 pupil we told you about yesterday who was taken at gunpoint outside a primary school in Mayfair, Johannesburg. Tonight, the Gauteng Education Department says 2 teenage girls are back home after also being kidnapped at gunpoint this week. Now, while these are disturbing headlines, the number of kidnapping cases reported to police in the last decade has risen from 2,839 in the 2010-2011 financial year to over 6,000 for 2019-2020. What then are the reasons behind this increase, and what needs to be done to curb this sort of crime? Martin Erie from the Institute for Security Studies is our guest tonight to talk about this in a moment. You can also be part of our discussion. Send those WhatsApp questions and comments to us via 072 110 5584. That number again, 072 110 5584. As ever, you can also tweet us at Newsroom405. If you wish to give your question or comment live on air, send us a WhatsApp and we will ring you back. Without then any further waste of time, let's bring in Martin Erie from the Institute for Security Studies. Martin, good to see you. Welcome to the program. So we have, as I was outlining, they've been speaking a lot about the kidnappings of children in the country, especially in the context or since the abduction of the Moti brothers. But is it that we're seeing an increase in the crime itself, or more mainstream and media conversation about it?
Thank you very much. Good evening, and good evening to your viewers. Yes, this is really a disturbing phenomenon. Whenever children are kidnapped, it really hit the conscience of humanity because these are innocent people. They are very vulnerable, and therefore when they fall victim to such a crime, it's very concerning to everyone. What we are seeing indeed, we've seen some very high-profile kidnappings of children. Recently, you've mentioned the Moti brothers who were just released last week, and also the girl and the boy who have been kidnapped recently in Joburg, in Johannesburg. What we are seeing indeed, I think you've provided the statistics, an increase in kidnappings during this decade since 2011. But the reason for this kidnapping is a little bit different from what we saw the decade, in the previous decade, which most of the kidnappings of children were really for trafficking rings, where children were being kidnapped for trafficking abroad for all sorts of reasons, one being to work in very horrible conditions in different companies, others for sex trafficking, others for all sorts of manual labor. Children were exposed to these kind of activities. What we have also seen, is, especially in South Africa, is that a good number of the kidnappings have been by family members or friends or people who know the family, who kidnap the children for various reasons. We've also seen cases where children have fallen victim because of divorce cases or cases in marriage gone wrong, where the other one wants to vindicate or revenge against the other, which have put children in very horrible conditions. We've also seen a situation where children are kidnapped by opportunists, organized crime syndicates who are looking for ransom. Mm-hmm. And I think these have been the recent high-profile kidnappings that we've seen, where children have been released after a heavy ransom has been paid. So these are really the conditions. We've also seen beyond South Africa, if we were to look at other reasons why children fall victims to kidnapping, is terrorism, violent extremism, and other violent situations, conflict, where children are being forcefully kidnapped, or they are recruited into these terrorist groups or organized crime syndicates for various reasons. In the case of terrorism or violent extremism, they are kidnapped to serve as soldiers or to participate in the warfare, mm-hmm. By providing different services.
So Martin, interesting that you mentioned the terrorism link, because when most of us think of especially localized radicalization, we think of it in the context of Europe. We've seen instances in Belgium, we've seen cases in Paris, in broader France, for example, where there have been young men who are recruited and then used to carry out, if you will, terrorist attacks, right? When young people are taken from South Africa, and I'm not sure how often this happens, at what scale is that happening, and which countries are they then taken to?
Tombi, I think you are going too far by looking at Europe and Belgium. I mean, look at Mozambique by the corner. Where
Cabo Delgado.
Cabo Delgado, exactly, where, reports coming out of Cabo Delgado from the UNICEF are showing that children are forcefully being kidnapped, and that the rate of children that are being kidnapped, especially to participate in the violent extremism perpetuated by the Islamic State and the Al-Sunnah wa Jama, is increasing. So children are more and more falling victims into this terrorism in Cabo Delgado. So it's not just a European phenomenon, but one that we are also experiencing here in Africa.
Let's come back to the recent headlines. I mean, I was referencing today a statement by the Gauteng Education Department which said 2 teenage girls aged, I think, 15 and 16 from Pretoria were now back with their families tonight after being abducted on Tuesday, I think it was, by gunmen while on their way to a clinic. They appear to have been given some form of substance, drugs, and were disorientated when they were found. You've got the Moti brothers, who last week were found in Vuwani, quite a distance from their home in Polokwane, unscathed. And it raises the question then of why the children would be taken if they're going to be released anyway. What is being done? What is the purpose during that time that they are held?
Well, the whole purpose is for ransom. They want money. So the kidnapping is an industry. This is a very profitable industry that I think in South Africa, we've not seen the worst of it, or even in Southern Africa. If you were to go to Nigeria, where the phenomenon has really taken roots within the society, you will see that the kidnapping for children, or kidnapping in general, has become a very profitable, very lucrative organized crime industry. It's very disturbing. So when these children are kidnapped, the first thing is they want money. So it is not just any child, of course, that is kidnapped. Otherwise, they will be kidnapping children in the street. But those are not profitable. No one is going to be giving ransom. So they have to target children from wealthy families. And this is what we have seen recently, which is why the media has gone frenzy with the recent kidnappings, because the kidnappings have occurred in families that are wealthy. But this is a phenomenon that occurs almost every day.
Let's talk about,
we don't hear a lot about it.
The media attention. I spoke to someone else here on the channel, I think over the weekend, who was saying the issue of media involvement and publicity in a kidnapping case can work either for or against the case. What's your take on how helpful media coverage of a specific case can be?
Indeed. Look, you guys were not reporting the Moti brothers when they were away, because I think you respected the situation, and also knowing the implications that your report will cause to their lives. So the media has this double-edged sword role that it plays when it comes to kidnapping. Remember that when most of these children or anyone who is kidnapped, the first thing the kidnapper will tell the family is, your loved one will be released. 2 things you must do. 1, do not involve the police. Do not call the police in whatever situation. 2nd, make sure that you pay the ransom. If you pay the ransom, you will get your loved one unhurt. But if you hesitate, this is what we will do to you or to your loved one. So this is something, it's a procedure that is well known, and which is keeping kidnapping for ransom really underreported, because families are scared, families have been warned, and it's a situation that if the media get involved, it could really aggravate the situation and put the victim really in danger.
So the numbers really worsened in a 10-year period from 2010 to 2020. Look at 2010, 2011, as I was saying at the top of the program. you had about 2,800 kidnappings overall reported. That figure rose to just above 6,000 in the 2019-2020 reporting period. Does this speak to a failure of the police service, the intelligence service in particular, to get ahead of this sort of crime?
Look, I think we can't just pick out the police here. This it speaks to the whole of society. If we want to stop kidnapping, I don't think that the police alone can do the job. Remember, kidnapping is widely spread. People can be in the comfort of their kitchen or living room and plan a kidnapping incident. It is very difficult for the police to detect. It is left to the community, the society where they are found, or even the neighborhood, to detect this kind of incidents and report to the police. But this is often not the case. And the major problem with kidnapping is that it is underreported. And sometimes when we say the figures are increasing, I doubt whether is it just a matter that we are reporting more now, or is it really that they are kidnapping more people. Mm-hmm. So this is the case because we always know. I mean, sometimes it was 1/5 of those kidnapped that were reported, which means 4/5 were not reported. Now we are saying it is half of those who are kidnapped are not reported. So you can see where we are coming from. That sometimes the reporting could make it sound like the phenomenon has drastically increased. But I think what has really increased in the recent trend has been the kidnapping of wealthy children from very wealthy families, and also not just children. Wealthy people have been targeted, and we've been witnesses to that. We've seen in the past where, Indian wealthy people have been kidnapped, Pakistani wealthy people have been kidnapped, mostly Muslim people who from very rich background have been kidnapped.
So, Martin,
yes.
We're going to take a breather shortly, but I want to ask you on the point about the children. Why are children such a lucrative target? Is it because the syndicates or the perpetrators know that parents, usually their children are their softest spot?
Indeed, it is the case. If you have a child, you will know why. Because if your child is kidnapped, you will go at length. You will do anything for that child to be free. You will prefer that you should be the one to have been kidnapped and not your child. So you will sell your house, you will sell whatever you have in order to pay the ransom. This is why children are being targeted, and most often not the adult. But again, as I've said, that there are many factors that contribute to the kidnapping of children. One being the family members, family feud, the other being marriages that have gone really wrong, others just vindictive attitude, and then, of course, the very lucrative industry of kidnapping for ransom.
And how well do we do as a country, the police service as well? I know you said it's not entirely the police's fault, but how well do we do as a country in documenting how many people who are kidnapped from these thousands make it back alive?
I think we need to adopt a modus operandi that encourage the families to be able to discreetly report kidnapping without putting their loved ones in danger. And that means putting in place a hotline. And the police, what we need to emphasize here is that the police need to be well trained to be able to handle these situations, so that when the family comes and report a kidnapping situation, the police has to treat such a situation discreetly in such a way that it will not jeopardize the life of the victim. And I think this is what most often is missing, because families tend not to trust the police. They believe that the police are going to go wild, and that could really infuriate the kidnappers, who could do something very harmful to their loved ones. So this is the situation.
Quick final one then. The Moti brothers were taken on their way to school in a car. We've already been told that when you are actually on the roads traveling, you are potentially at one of your most vulnerable points as a person, right? You've got a little girl yesterday, the grade 5 pupil. She was taken at the entrance to her school. How do we protect spaces as public, as a school? Because a lot of parents are now saying they wonder if their kids are safe to begin with.
Indeed, I'm glad you raised that question. I'm just coming back from Parent Teachers Association meeting, the AGM of of my daughter's school. It is not something easy, but let's say that we need to put in place mechanisms in school where teachers, all those who support the school system need to be aware. They need to protect the child. So the child should not be able to roam around, which is why the fencing of the school is extremely important. So that once the child is in the school premises, there are measures that the child herself or himself need to take in order to protect herself. And the school itself needs to have monitoring mechanisms to see what is going on with children. Most often it is the fact that the school did not apply those monitoring mechanisms. The children or the child was left alone to the extent where they were kidnapped, or sometimes it is the child running out of the school premises into the road where the child does not know where they are going and they are being kidnapped. But let me also emphasize that we are at a very sensitive period during the year, the period of Christmas, the holiday period, when everyone, including criminals, need money, and therefore incidents, criminal activities like this one are extremely high. So it is a warning to everyone, to the families, not just children. Please protect your children, also protect yourself, take extra measures, be alert wherever you might be, because again, anyone could be a victim.
Martin, that's a good point to leave it. Martin Erie with the Institute for Security Studies. Grateful for your time tonight, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, this is In Focus. Let's remind you of the top stories if you're just joining us. First, electricity tariffs, then fuel, and now the Reserve Bank has raised the repo rate to 3.75%. Well, Eskom will suspend stage 2 power cuts in the next half hour, but it says stage 1 load shedding will resume at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. As you've just heard, in South Africa, kidnapping cases seem to be on the rise, yet another school pupil we're hearing has been abducted, this time by gunmen outside a Johannesburg school.